Hey everybody, Jason here. I'm gonna try and upload or do another video. Um, Hopefully the sound quality on this thing is okay. I wanted in this video I wanted to talk about what I am currently looking for in a new role-playing game. Because I talked a little bit about how I'm losing interest in 5th edition and modern D20 and things like that. It's a little too crunchy. I don't want to say it's too crunchy. That's not exactly very accurate. I'm looking basically for something that I enjoy combat. Don't get me wrong. I love combat. I love action and things like that. But I want to play something that's not as focused on combat. And I feel like Dungeons and Dragons, any game can be more or less combat oriented depending on how you want to make it. So that's not really, I guess, what I'm trying to say. But basically a system that doesn't focus just on combat, as far as progression and things like that. And that's basically what D&D is it, you level up to get more powers and more abilities and more hit points and better armor and better equipment and more spells and this and that. And I enjoy combat in a game. I just don't want that to be the focus of the game, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I kind of want to, I really enjoy some of the reading that I've been doing on a lot of the OSR stuff that focuses, I don't want to say it focuses more on story and things like that, but when you have less options in terms of combat and powers and abilities and things like that, I think it gives you a little more open space to focus on narrative and story and character. If I'm playing a game, say for example, White Box, Fantastic Medieval Adventures, and I'm playing a fighter, I don't have to worry about what feats I'm taking at the next level, what new martial abilities I'm getting, or what path I'm taking to be in my next fighting level or whatever. There's only a few options mechanically for a fighter at certain levels. So instead of focusing on those things like, oh, what's my base attack bonus going to be next level? Oh, I get a new feat. Which feat do I, which feat mechanically will optimize my combat and this and that? I don't have to think about that. I don't have those options, so I can focus more on the narrative of the character and what I want it to be, how I want to grow it, how I'm doing, story scenarios, and how I'm, just the personality of the character, not the mechanics of the character. And like I said, I know you can play any game and have more role-playing than anything else. A game doesn't have to focus on combat. But I think that when you are playing a game that mechanically is built around combat and those types of things, it's easier to lose sight of role-playing and character and narrative and story, because you do have to kind of think about what you're going to do when the character levels up, as far as mechanics and stuff. So there's that. I also think that a streamlined set of mechanics, which is more common these days, so it's not really a huge deal. Like, for example, 5th edition is very streamlined. But I don't want a lot of subsystems. Like, an example would be, thief skills in 2nd edition or 1st edition AD&D, where there's the percentile dice that are different than the traditional 20 that you would roll and things like that. Sorry, the sun is really bright. The other thing that I like about some of the more modern stuff is, one thing in particular that I'm looking for is, I'm not real fond of classes. I understand that they have their uses and they're very helpful, especially for newer players or players who aren't super serious about their characters and are just kind of, we all know those players that show up just to hang out with friends or whatever, and I know that the classes can be a good thing and they can help, don't get me wrong, but something a little more freeform. Sometimes classes can limit what you can and can't do, and that's also not always a bad thing. But I do like the idea of levels. Let me put it this way: I'm not opposed to the idea of levels. I like levels because it can help cap things out, so you don't have too much growth, or there's limits to what a person can learn, to keep things a little more realistic and grounded. Like, say for example, in D&D, all right, 5th edition, there's 20 levels is typically your max limit. You could probably go higher than that with house rules and stuff, but so you have a cap out at 20th level, whereas in, say, Star Wars D6, there's not really a limit, a cap of how many dice and pips you can put into a skill. So now I know it's highly unrealistic and probably would never happen, but theoretically, you could have a character that's got 20 or 30 some dice in a skill, and that's just absurd to me. That's just silly. Not to mention, who wants to toss 36-sided dice and try and add all that up? That's crazy. Which brings me to another point. I do enjoy dice pool systems, but either have a cap on it, so you're not rolling 10 or 15 dice and you're trying to add all of it up, or have the dice individually have a target number for each die, like a success rating, rather than a sum. So you could roll 10d6 and have, say, 5 successes, rather than the sum of 10d6. That type of dice pool I don't mind. In fact, I kind of like that idea. And I apologize that my camera is so shaky right now. This road sucks. If I can hold it just a little bit, but it's going to be even worse. Anyway, so I don't mind so much that. I also, I just don't want a ton of math. I get to play very, very little. My time is extremely limited. I've got a 2-year-old, and a full-time job, and a wife, and a house, and everything. So we're always busy, we're always on the run. So time is limited at my age, and I don't want to spend, half of my night counting dice, or something where there's a combat that lasts an hour because everybody's got 120 hit points, and we're trying to decide what spells we want to do, or what feats we might use, or what, things like that. Low math, faster resolution mechanics, things like that, so I can do more role-playing rather than dice rolling. When I was younger, and I could play every weekend, or every other weekend, or multiple times a week, and it didn't matter if I was counting dice for 2 hours, or whatever, that wasn't such a big deal. Not a big deal. But at my age, I just don't want to count dice for 2 hours, and so there's that. When it comes to like fantasy, like D&D style fantasy, I don't mind Vancian magic. I think there's a place for it, and there's a certain aesthetic that it brings to a game, and there are certain aspects about it that I do like. But as I get older, excuse me, I kind of am more. I'm very interested in the idea of a D&D style mechanics with the D20, but not a Vancian magic system. And I know that's very easy to house rule, and even the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D has options about using spell points and things like that. So there are options out there. I'm not saying there's not. I just feel like it's something that I'm drawn to as something different. And I've been working on, for a little while now, maybe a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I've been working on my own little fantasy system, which every gamer works on their own system at one point or another. But I feel like I'm starting to finally come into my own on things that I like and don't like, and how I might be able to make a system work and things like that. So that's something else I'm working on. But we'll see how that progresses. Who knows? But another thing that, and I guess maybe this whole conversation is almost like a stream of thought involving or regarding how I want to create the system that I'm working on in one way or another. But something else that kind of bothers me is when a character can be built not to become a jack of all trades, but a master of all trades. So, you've got a character that can swing a sword like a master, and can use the best armor, and has, a plus 7 or 8 bonus in almost every skill, and has all these abilities they can do that make other characters not important. And it's like I said, instead of a jack of all trades, you become a master of all trades. And I don't like that. When you sit there and you come up with a plot, or not a plot, my mind blanked out. You're trying to come up with a plan for how you're going to do something in a game, and you sit there for a half an hour or however long it takes for your group of people to come up with this idea, like, this is cool, we're going to do this, and you can use this skill, and you can do this, and then while that's happening, I can be around here doing this, and we'll get all this worked out. And then one guy just goes, oh, well, I can take care of all those things just by doing this one thing. Yeah, mechanically you can do that, but what's the fun in that? That's not fun. That's boring to have one guy. It's like, Superman taking out a whole group of villains when the Justice League is like, let's work together, let's figure out a plan, let's work together and be a team and do this. And Superman's like, nah, screw that, guys, I got this shit, I can handle it. It's just, So, but I like the idea of being able to customize your character to how you want it to be without it being all powerful. I want you to be able to do what you want, but there still be a limit or a cap with what you can do. One thing I really like is in the basic role-playing system from Chaosium, from Call of Cthulhu and basic role-playing and Magic World and all that stuff, is where your skills go up by using them, not by gaining a level and putting points into them. So if you start out with, say, a 25% chance in playing the piano, and you start going out and doing things that don't involve playing the piano, like using libraries or research, cooking, things like that, combat, those skills are naturally going to go up. But I couldn't just raise a level and put a couple points in piano because I haven't been using it. Those skills will only get better if you use them. And I love that idea. I wish there were a way, and there probably is a way, I could probably figure it out, or somebody else has probably already figured it out, how to incorporate that into the D20 system that D&D uses, or other old style fantasy games, or D20 fantasy games, whatever, So I think you could probably do that, but I love the idea of that. Again, the only problem with that is you run the risk of one character, I guess not one character, but all characters, if they wanted to and put forth the time and effort to become master of all trades, you know, in that regard also. Which, yeah, I guess if you put in the time and effort to learn everything, and you play the character that long and you survive, I guess it's legitimately earned, but it still doesn't make it fun, you know. So there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to systems and what you want, how your style of play is, if you want to create your own system, stuff like that. There's just a lot to think about, and a lot to consider. And I've done a lot of that lately in the past 2 or 3 weeks that I've been working on this little system I'm working on. Which, you know, anybody who's trying to devise their own system can tell you that's not easy to do. You know, and like the first few pages of this book I wrote notes to myself as to keep myself not to be too overwhelmed, because I'm not a great writer. I never went to school for writing. It's a hobby, and it's not easy. I'm not a good writer. I don't think so anyway. But one of the things that I wrote was, you know, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Just try to grease it enough to where it's smooth for how smooth I want it to be. You know, I don't need to create an entirely new system. I can take little bits and pieces of other systems and try and make them work for me and my group. And a lot of it's going to come through a lot of trial and error. And what may be perfect for me, for how I want to run a game, might not be perfect for how someone wants to play a game. So I got to take that into consideration too. But so those are kind of some of the things I've been looking for in a game. I've been reading Symbaroum, which I'm kind of digging so far. I've been reading a little bit of King Arthur Pendragon, which I like a lot. And a couple of other things I've been reading. I've been reading some OSR stuff. Dungeons and Delvers Black Book, really good book. That is really hitting the nail on the head for a lot of things that I want for my game. Vagabonds of Dyfed. I'm not very familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse, and from what little I've read of it, it's not something I can grok very well. I'm sure it will be a lot more smooth and understandable while you're playing it. But Vagabonds of Dyfed has a mixture of both Powered by the Apocalypse and you know, D20 OSR games and stuff, so it's a little easier for me to understand, and I'm digging it a lot. It's a really smooth, light system that I think might suit our group fairly well. But, you know, then I've been reading other things like Fantasy Flight games, Star Wars, and stuff like that. So, and I've even been looking at old things like D6 and stuff like that, and realizing there are things that I like, things I don't like. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, there's sometimes you can get overwhelmed. There's so many options and so many systems that, one, you don't have enough time to read them all to see whether you really do like them or not, or two, how do you mix and match pieces of things that you do like and don't like to make this Frankenstein's monster of a system that you think you would love. And sometimes you write a lot of things down on paper that don't translate well to the table, which I've come across too. So there's a lot of work involved in that, and it's just not easy. A lot of it's not easy. A bunch of things on my porch right now. But anyway, I am home, and got some stuff to do, so I'm going to try and cut this video off and maybe get them all uploaded soon, and try and think about some more things to talk about in another video. And if anybody has any ideas of things they want to talk about, or any comments or questions that could lead to more videos, hey, I'm totally game, because again, creating videos isn't easy either. You can only sit and talk for so long before things get boring, or you run out of things to say, you start repeating yourself, or lots of ums. So anyway, you guys take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you.